Welcome to the Cookies and Coffee Podcast. My name is Cale Owen.
And my name is Maggie Owen. I am the VP of Operations and Cale is the CEO. And together we run 2 8-figure businesses and we are in the middle of building a startup.
And this podcast is to document our journey as high-level executives, as parents, and as husband and wife, so that we can share what's working for us, what we found that doesn't work, lessons, tips, and tricks, so that if you are married and working together or want to do that, you can learn from what has worked for us and for many other people so that you can have an incredible marriage, an incredible business, and an incredible life. What's up, girl?
Hey.
I guess we're telling our story.
Sure, let's do it.
I got all the comments.
Trying to figure out how we got together, how this thing works.
To sum it all up, if we were just going to bring it all together, you and I are basically going to cheat on each other again because according to the comments on TikTok and Instagram, like once a cheater, always a cheater. So we're doomed, by the way.
Yeah, so definitely doomed.
Definitely doomed. All right, let's start. Do you want to, ladies first? Do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Well, okay. So how we met. We met at a bar, which is so funny because that's totally not like either one of us. And we don't just bring me good.
We met outside of Harry's first, didn't we? And then we walked over.
No, you were already in there. You were already at the table.
Oh, it was the next day that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how we met, we had a mutual friend.
Okay, so we're telling our story.
Yes.
Today's all about the story because apparently we need to tell our story. So, because
people are confused how we got together. And
60-second clip from a random podcast conversation that we were having with no context got blown out of proportion. Now it's at over it's almost at 7 million views on TikTok. People want to know.
People want to know.
So let's spill the tea.
I think it's kind of boring, but
I agree.
Just kidding. I think our story is great.
It's awesome. Okay. So how we met. I was graduated from college at the time. Mm-hmm. I had actually just been released from the Phillies organization. It was during the summer. I had been released the last day of spring training. So I was working with a company. I actually got released on a Friday, was working full-time on Monday with the company that I'd been working part-time during the off-season with. And then you were, when we met. I was
supposed to be in Australia.
Yes.
When we met.
Which is mind-blowing to me because that is not like you to put a deposit down, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I put a deposit down on a study abroad trip. So I would have got college credits for it and I got to spend a summer in Australia.
That's insane.
And I lost my deposit and didn't go.
And you love travel.
I do love traveling, yeah.
And Australia's top of the list of where we would like to go as well.
I've always wanted to go. Haven't been.
I know. It's crazy.
I was just waiting for you.
I know. That's how it worked out.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I'm just going to work all summer. I'd rather the money I lost was nothing compared to the money I could make. I was working at a bar in downtown St. Augustine, tourist town. So I could just make a ton more money if I just worked, 6-7 nights a week. Just worked all the time, worked all summer. I was like, I will make so much more money, so I'm just going to stay here and work for the summer and stack a bunch of cash. Except for I didn't stack a bunch of cash.
You made a bunch of cash.
I made a bunch of cash and I spent all the cash.
Yeah, that's okay. But you were in between your sophomore and junior year in college.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd already graduated that year. No, I'd graduated the year before. Yeah. So I was graduated before that.
Yeah. Sure. What? 3.5 years older than me.
Yeah.
4 years older.
No, I graduated 2 years before. So I graduated 2010. I'm getting old.
And I started school in 2009. Oh, yeah, we met going into my junior year.
Yeah, so
I just finished sophomore and I just started my junior year.
No, so it was
just graduated.
I just graduated the year before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was rough. So we're getting old. We can't remember it. So I was going up to St. Augustine and I can't remember why I was going up to St. Augustine.
You need documents from the school.
Yeah, I was trying to buy a house. That's what it was. I was trying to buy a house. And for some reason, the mortgage, because of where I was and how I didn't have a ton of credit, part of the process back when it was, I needed to show proof of something. I don't know. So I needed transcripts from my college, which is here, Flagler College, St. Augustine. And so I had to come up and grab them. So I had buddies that were here and just decided to stay the weekend. Anyways.
Yeah. And so one of those buddies that you're mutual friends with, which funny backstory, you guys became friends because your girlfriends previously in college were friends. And then that's how you guys met, which I think is so funny. And then you guys stayed friends. Anyway, I worked with this buddy at the restaurant downtown that I was at. And I think I was 19 when we met. So, not old enough to go out and go drinking, but everyone in the restaurant industry obviously goes out, especially after doubles on the weekends, everyone's going out. And St. Augustine's a pretty small town, especially if you work in the restaurant industry. And so you can kind of get into any bars you want to get into. I didn't go out all that often. But this one night specifically that you had come into town, he said, hey, I have a buddy in town. A bunch of us are going out tonight. Very casually, like made it like a big group thing. A bunch of us are going to go out. You should come out with us after work. And I said, okay, cool. I'll come out with you. But I wasn't old enough to obviously get into the bar, and I didn't have a fake ID. So I said, that's fine. You just have to come outside and get me. And then, you know the bouncer, so then you can just get me in. So when he came out to meet me, you were already in there. And he said, I really wish you were single because I have a buddy that's in town and I think you would really like him and you guys would hit it off. And I was like, cool. Well, I'm not single, but let's go meet everybody. Yeah. And I didn't really think much of it. Which I think is funny because now we know he was also kind of planning the seed with you too.
Yep. With me as well.
Yeah.
Because he kind of was like, same thing. He's like, basically was like, there's this girl I think you should meet. But he's like, it kind of sucks because she's dating someone. And I can't even call it dating, loosely talking to someone. I was dating someone that was out of state. So it was long distance. Can't call it a relationship. It wasn't really, it was just one of those, yeah. Anyways, we were dating and this person that I was seeing was in North Carolina. I was in Clearwater, Florida. So just back and forth. And I came up for the weekend and then he's like, hey, we're going out. I was like, cool, chilling, hanging out with him. And I think there was 8 people there, 9 people.
Yeah, it was a good group of people.
Yeah. I'm embarrassed to say this publicly. But that was and I can confidently say this, though no one will believe me. That was the only time ever in my life where I've been in a situation where I have not talked to another woman who is within a certain radius, at least started making conversation and had a conversation. Because having conversations is not really a problem for me at all. But that was the only time in my life where it's ever happened. Thankfully, it wasn't like we were sitting right next to each other or directly across from each other.
It was kind of directly across from each other.
I had no excuse.
It was
not
this,
to,
and then our friend, and then another friend, and it was
maybe it was because I knew you were dating someone. I didn't even want to go that route. No, that had nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Long story short, Cale didn't say a single word to me.
Yep. And you thought I was an a-hole.
I did think you were an a-hole. I was like, this jerk can't even hold a conversation with me. Doesn't even ask me anything about myself. Nothing. Yep. Just totally just off in his own little world, talking to his other friends.
Yep. Wasn't my best showing.
It was not.
No, it was not.
So how did we get here? What happened after that?
Yeah. So again, not the conventional route. And I would not suggest this for anyone to do. Just
it's old school sliding into DMs.
Yeah, it's old school. So I left that night. We left. And again, was kicking myself for not at least saying something, which is it's so unlike me to not do that. It's mind blowing. And I look back and I'm like, I don't know why I didn't, but I was like, you know what? This is also this is the first time I've ever done this too. So I did back-to-back first times. I was like, you're an idiot. You should have said something, at least had a conversation. You could have been a normal human being and just had a conversation. And I was like, whatever, shoot my shot. So I asked my buddy for your number and just texted you. And I can't even remember the very first text. But I remember I was just she's most likely never going to reply, or she'll say, who is this? And be like, okay, whatever. But I'm going to do it just for my own sanity to be okay, I at least made the connection. It's regardless of what happens is what it is. So I texted you and yeah, then we basically been talking every day since then.
Yeah, literally every day since then.
Yeah, which is 12 years ago.
Yeah.
12 years ago, which is crazy.
Close to it. Oh, yeah, we would have just passed 12 years.
12 years, which is insane.
That's insane.
Every day.
Yeah, so we started texting. What's funny is, so you had come up for that weekend, which was mid-July maybe. Left back to Tampa, and we texted every day up until beginning of October.
Yep.
Never saw each other.
Yep.
Social media, I mean, there was Facebook
but it wasn't
briefly, but it wasn't how it is now. There wasn't really Instagram yet.
Yeah.
Just social media wasn't really a thing. So we just kind of got to know each other via text. And then we didn't see each other again until October. It was the first time we decided to hang out.
Yep. And we're not condoning this, by the way.
Yeah.
Just this is, yeah.
There was definitely like a lot of more hiding on my side because my boyfriend at the time lived here.
Yeah.
Also, so there was like navigating that, and you didn't really have to hide anything because your girlfriend didn't live here.
Yeah. But either way, it's not right.
No, definitely not right.
Not right whatsoever. Not condoning it. Not saying what we did was right whatsoever. It just happened to work out really well for us.
It did work out really well.
So we're texting. We link up in October for the first time. And then from there, it's like, okay, now we start getting into each other a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We hung out for the first time in October. You'd come back up to St. Augustine.
Yep.
Go back to Tampa, and we don't see each other again until like mid-November, like closer, like first early weeks of November. It was like almost like another month. It was probably 5, maybe even 6 weeks before we saw each other again. But again, like still texting a ton all the way through. See each other again. And then I think it was like after that weekend that we spent together, you were like, I think it's probably a good idea if I break up with my girlfriend.
That was like New Year's.
No, we did it before.
It was right. I thought it was like right around New Year's. Because I
No,
remember
New Year's you decided that we should just be friends.
Oh, got it. Oh yeah, break up. Yes, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So we like spent that weekend together, and then we decided, okay, you're like, I'm breaking up with my girlfriend. I was like, probably smart. I'll break up with my boyfriend.
Yep.
You know, again, not right. Should have did this way before.
Yep.
Because we were definitely in a strong emotional relationship prior to even hooking up for the first time.
Yeah.
And then also hooking up. So, you know, again, just probably should have cut it off sooner. Anyway, you decided to take the first step.
Yeah. So I did it. I broke up with a girlfriend, and then you broke up with yours.
Yep.
I think it was like a week after.
Yeah, or like close. I don't know.
Or 2
Anyway,
weeks or
it
whatever.
was like pretty close together to one another. And then I think from there we like hung out maybe once or twice, still like talked all the time. And then right before New Year's, you were supposed to come up here for the weekend and spend the weekend with me. It was going to be like our first like weekend together.
Yep.
Kind of as a couple. We hadn't like officially said we were a couple, but like together. And you decide that you're just going to go on this completely different journey and we should just be friends.
Yep. Context for that. So
I'll
I should probably describe that because it's not going to look great either way, but it doesn't really matter. From my context of where I was at. So if we go backwards, I had dated this girl in college up until it was like junior, senior year, been with this person. And then I had gone into professional baseball, still dating this person. And then in the off season, ended up breaking up. I think it was off season because I was working with that company when it happened. So it would have been the off season. And then focused on baseball in spring training. And then almost like right after spring training, met the next person that I started dating. And for me, like I had actually been pretty much in a relationship in some form or fashion almost all of college. From like the first girlfriend I ever dated, I met literally day one, started talking, played her off of another girl, the whole thing. Anyways, had the whole
stand up human being.
Yeah, very stand up. Yep, just stand up. So I was in a position where I was like, I don't like the person that I've become. Because you were also you were the only person that I've ever cheated on someone else with. So I was like, that's not me. Like, I was frankly like scared that this would become something where it's like, if I go down that road and I just embrace it and don't take a step back and truly think about the actions that I took and understand what are the consequences of that, then it would be that much easier the next time. And so for me, I was like, whoa, like, wait a second. Is this the Cale that I say that I am? Obviously not. Like, this is not the person that I want to be, nor who I want to be, who I am, any of that. It's just like, it's not a good situation for me personally. But at the same time, the struggle is that like at this time, I was very into you, like in love with you, very much so. Like we were texting, and even though it was a short amount of time, it was just like clicked. Like it was just like, okay, love her. Absolutely. And I don't know if it was like, I knew right away that you were the one like to marry. I just knew I was like, I love you. Like this is real, which made it that much harder. And that was the hardest decision of my life because I knew, knowing who you are, knowing a little bit about like your options available to you, me going to you and telling you like, I can't do this right now. Like I can't do a relationship. I knew I did a rug pull like on you. Yeah. Like I know I did. And I knew going into it, I was like, I have to do the right thing regardless. And I have to tell her the truth and I can't sugarcoat it. And I have to tell her, and I have to be willing to accept the consequences of losing the person that I love, because that's 100% up to her, because it should be. And like, I can't tell you to stay around at all.
Yeah.
Like, I can't try to manipulate you into staying with me or being friends or dating or keep you on the sidelines. I can't do that. Like, I have to let you make that choice, and it is fully your choice to do that, which is why for me, it was still the hardest decision to date of my life. And if that's the hardest decision of my life, then we're doing, that means I don't have any life and death situations that I have to face. So like, Lord willing, that is the hardest decision. But going into that, my thing was like, I need to, number one for me, growing up as a Christian, as a believer, right? I was like, I need to get closer to God. I need to improve my walk. I need to improve my faith. I need to stop focusing on all the things that for me were taking me away from that, right? And this sounds bad because it makes it seem like you were the one that's taking me away. It wasn't that. It was my decisions internally and how I went about it.
Right.
That were my responsibility that I needed to address first. And so I needed to get right, because I knew that if I didn't get right, I, number one, wouldn't be the type of man that you could respect and also lead you and whatever family if we ever had one. But also, if you didn't stay, I couldn't respect myself or be the type of man that I would want to be someday if it was someone else, right? And I hoped and prayed it was going to be you. So for me, that was like, it was hard. It sucked. And I remember having that conversation with you. It was like the hardest thing ever. And I don't know why you were like, cool. Like, I don't know, maybe it was because I was the first person to ever tell you no.
Because we joke about it now, but when I like look back on it, that is like my mentality at times.
No one ever told you no.
No one ever told me no. And it was, I always ended all the relationships. Like, I would be in a relationship until I wasn't. And this was normal behavior for me. It was not normal behavior for you.
No.
And so, you know, obviously I knew it was wrong, but I also I was just at a point in my life where I didn't care. Mm-hmm. And so there was kind of like two sides to this for me. Like, the first one is I was like, okay, well, he's going to tell me no, but I'm going to win him over anyway. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to stick this out and show him that, like, no, you don't need a year off to like better yourself. Like,
year was an arbitrary number. I don't know why I picked a year.
It was like 365 days. Like, wait, I don't even know. Anyway, maybe it sounded cool. But I was like, no, I'm going to go through this journey with him and whatever parameters he has, because I'm going to come out on top in the end. Like, I want to win this relationship in the end. So like, that was part of it. And then the other part of it was like, I think this is like the tug of, you know, just like with my faith now, like, and I didn't know it at the time because I wasn't a believer before I met you. And like, I didn't grow up. Like, I went to church in a Catholic church, and I went to a Catholic school, but like, I was never baptized. I didn't go to, you know, like a non-denominational style church where you like, it was just much different. Like, it was like Catholic anyway. And so I didn't really have faith. I didn't really like believe in Jesus and none of that stuff. And so part of me is like, when I met you, your mom was battling cancer. She was super sick for the second time. Mm-hmm. And your whole family was just like amazing. Like, you were all so, you just had like a calmness, and you had like pure joy when all of the circumstances around you would point to the world should say you shouldn't have joy in those circumstances and times. And I'm like, I don't know. You could tell there's something different about you. And I didn't know what that was. And so like, part of me was like, well, my life's also not on the right track. I've like ruined every single relationship I've ever had. I've had terrible friendships with female and males. Like, I just have like, I was just like so destructive from things that have happened in my past that I was like kind of working through that I didn't really know at the time. I'm like, my life isn't going to turn out great probably either if I don't turn something around. And so your decision just happened to also be a catalyst of me being like, well, one, I could also go all in. And if it works out, awesome. And if it doesn't, then hopefully I can gain some clarity on where my life is headed to. Mm-hmm.
I think there are quite a few friends of yours that would say that you have not had destructive friendships that would be on your side to this day, that are great friends of yours that would.
Well, I mean,
but I get what
they would also say I was like wild and crazy. And like, when we went back home, the friends that I am still friends with, like, I'm a completely different person that I am today. And a lot of those same friends I don't have anymore, just from the fact of like my lifestyle is different and I'm not that person anymore, but they still identify me as that person, which is hard for me. So I just and it's like, not that we couldn't still be friends, because I think that they would accept who I am now too. It's just in their head, they see me as like wild party child Maggie. And like, that's not the person that I am anymore. And so it's more difficult for me, I think, to just like sit in that place where people view me as something else that I'm not anymore. So just disassociated, have moved on from that. And we also don't live up there anymore. Or I don't live up there. So, but anyway, so you're coming up for the weekend.
Yep.
And you drop this on me like before the weekend.
Yep.
And I'm like so excited for this weekend with you because we like haven't had it.
I know.
And it's like we'd been waiting since technically July. Like it had been a buildup since July to like have this time together.
I know.
Like officially you and I. And then you're like, we just have to be friends. I'm like, okay. You're like, I understand if you don't want me to come up this weekend. And I had like taken work off.
I know. It was so hard.
And so I remember I like ended up picking up a couple of shifts and I was like, I'm still going to work a little, but like, if you want to, I think you should still come up and we can hang out and just like be friends. We can like not be alone together in the house. Like you can stay somewhere else. Like
I couldn't
whatever.
believe that you said I should still come up, by the way.
Yeah, I want to hang out with you.
I know. I like couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I figured you would just be like,
well, and part of me is like, I can probably kind of convince you to like do some other stuff. Like I tested a lot of like limits. And you continue to keep like pulling the rug out also though too. Cause we were like, okay, well, so this was New Year's. And we'd go to a New Year's Eve party together. And I was like, we can just like kiss. Like that's fine. And I remember you being like, do you kiss your friends? And I was like,
you said yes.
I said, I could kiss my friends.
I was like, okay.
But you caved.
Yes, I did.
And we did. But we just kissed.
Yep.
For the weekend.
Yep.
Just a lot of kissing, like a bunch of middle schoolers.
Yeah.
And then you left and you went home. And we still texted all the time.
All the time.
And so I would probably say like a month after that, maybe in like a couple weeks, you then were like, actually, we can't text anymore either.
This part for me, looking back, I'm like, I don't know why I did this. Like this one, I just don't understand. I love the letters that we wrote because we ended up writing letters.
We did write
talking.
letters,
We talked a lot more on the phone, like a ton.
So we had never, so this whole time we had just texted
Never
for
talked on the
months.
phone.
We had never talked on the phone.
Yeah.
So you came in and you put these parameters where like, okay, we can't text, but we can talk on the phone like every 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And you're like, and we can write letters to each other. I was like, cool. We can do that.
Yeah.
You were kind of lame.
Very lame. Like looking back, it was like, it's funny because at the time I was literally just trying to create parameters so I didn't slip up.
I know.
But it was like, it was because of my lack of discipline in my own life. And I was trying to do everything I possibly could because I was so attracted to you. I was very much in love with you, very much wanted to be with you. But I was also like, I'm not the man that I need to be, regardless whether it was for you or for anyone else. Right. It was just like, for me, I was not the man that I needed to be or wanted to be. And so creating these kind of boundaries and parameters was my almost idiotic way of just trying to guardrail myself or protect myself from, in my own head, messing up, even though it wouldn't have been a mess up. But like,
what's interesting is I actually it did, I would say like protect you in a sense, but it also like, that's what brought us closer together though too. Because it forced us to, I think like, and we've gotten so much better at communicating throughout our marriage, but that kind of like started it. It's like, we have to figure out how to communicate writtenly, like via, letters, and we have to be able to communicate on the phone, which like, I feel like just people don't know how to do those things anymore. Yeah. And we like force ourselves, and we weren't even in like the heavy social media start like it is now, but we still.
Because it's easy with a text, right? You can send a text and then not reply if you don't want to reply to something. You can pass by it, right? But when you're on the phone and something comes up, it's like, you have to talk about it. You can't just ignore it.
Right.
Like, yeah, you could hang up, but like, okay, that's not good. Like, you should probably face it and have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
So
I remember being so excited.
Yeah.
Like on our nights that we'd plan to talk. Like I remember I'd like get off work and I'd like rush home and I'd be so excited to just like get in bed and talk to you for
hours.
like,
We were literally like middle schoolers.
I know. Just like catch up on our day.
It was awesome.
Like the past couple of days, like what have you been doing? What have you been up to?
I know.
Which, it was super fun. So anyway, it lasted 6 months of this. So from like January to June, July. And then you decided that we should just get married, sitting on your bed in your room.
Was it July that we figured that out, or was it like September, October?
No, it was before, because we were trying to figure out what I was going to do for my last semester of school.
Yep.
And you're like, we should just get married.
That's literally how I asked you. I know.
Yeah. Because you're like, well, we're not going to live together before we get married.
Yep.
And my last semester of college, I could do an internship anywhere I wanted. And naturally, I wanted to come, across the state and be with you. But I was like, I don't know where we're going to live. And at the time, so like the parameters, which is so crazy, but the parameters for the sport management program that I was in was you couldn't have a job and also be doing your internship. Your internship had to be your own focus. And if you could get one that's paid, that's cool. But like most of them aren't paid. And I had worked all through college and worked all the time. Like I was I would take all the early morning classes and then I'd go and work as soon as I got off class.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I would work
your ass
I worked
off.
all the time.
Oh yeah.
And so one, not having income, I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do here. And two, I'm like, I'm just used to being so busy and working all the time. But I couldn't do that. I had to only be able to do my internship. So I was like, I don't have money to live on my own. And like, I don't know where I'm going to stay. And so we started talking about like, what is that dynamic going to look like? And so we decided, you were like, well, we could just get married.
Just get married.
Yeah.
And then you're like, yeah.
Okay.
So didn't have a ring.
No.
Didn't have permission from your dad. Ended up calling your dad 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
Speed is King has been it's funny because Speed is King is one of the core tenants here at our portfolio companies. And like, that's been our thing from the get go.
Yeah.
And
I remember we were sitting there and we're like, we should just get married. And I said, okay. You're like, okay, well, we should go tell my family. I was like, all right.
Did it. And then I called your dad and your dad says no.
Yeah.
Which I can't blame him. Like being in his shoes with a daughter now, I would say the exact same thing. Because he'd only met me once. We'd gone up to New York. And I remember him telling, like later on, I found out that, and he's an incredible man. Incredible man. I found out that number one, he told you that he thought that I was dating somebody else. Like I had a
Yeah.
different
He was
life.
like so convinced you had two lives. Like you had the life over here in St. Augustine and you also had the life in Tampa. You had, like.
Yeah. I like dating someone else or whatever. And then I'd
Yeah.
come up and be different with you and just be with you and vice versa. But then he also did a background check on me. Found out later. Told my dad that they did a full background
We just
check
found this
on
out
me.
like a year ago too.
Yeah. Yeah. This was not that long ago. And he's like checked out. And then I remember my dad told me that he asked him at a CrossFit competition once we were watching. He's like, is Cale the real deal? Like, is he who he says he is? And my dad like kind of looked at him kind of surprised. And my dad was like, he better be. He's my son. And he was like, I don't know. He's just different. He's like, he's not like all the guys from where we're at. And I was just like, and I laughed at that because it's true. Like I'm different from a lot of people.
You are very
period.
different.
And it just is what it is. And no apologies on my side, but I call him and he says no, because he's like, listen, and he was super nice about it. He wasn't a dick about it. He was just like, I've only met you once. Like, it's my daughter. It's my only daughter, like my only child. And I'm going to need some time. And then I think it wasn't that long after. Like we ended up started planning it anyway, but it was like, I don't know.
Well, because I was like, we're getting married regardless. So.
Yeah. And it was like a couple weeks later. He's like, okay, like, what are we doing for the wedding? Like,
yeah.
But I found out later, maybe he just said no because that's his normal reaction to most things. He just says no
Always
first.
says no first.
And then figures out a way. He'll say yes later. But yeah, and then we were married. So if that was June or July, we were married like 9 months later.
Yeah. So originally we were going to get married in December.
Yeah.
We were going to get married early so we could move in together. Yep. And we ended up not and getting married the next May. Mm-hmm. So I ended up moving in still with you, but you were living at your parents' house. So I moved in with you and your parents and your little sister who was like 11 or 12 at the time. Yep. And your mom's super sick.
Yeah, it's a rough.
So it was like very interesting dynamics. And we almost didn't get married.
I know.
Because you were gone all the time.
And your love language is time.
Yeah.
Not just quality time, just time.
And I also like, I didn't have another outlet besides like I could work out and do my internship was at a CrossFit gym. So most of the times I worked out at my internship. And so like I had all of this extra time that I'm not used to having.
Yep.
And I'm also coming home into a house that I'm not used to. I grew up as an only child, so I'm not like used to having other people always around.
I had 3 sisters. 2 of them were still at the house, right?
Just one.
Just Mary.
Yeah, just Mary was at the house. Yeah. Chelsea and Delaney were out. But it'd be like, and then I'd been at school for years on my own, living in my own spot. Mm-hmm. And so I would like come home and I'd have, a 12-year-old asking me how my day was, what I wanted to do. Like, just like things I'm like, I just want to chill and not do anything.
Don't ask
Which
me
like
questions.
looking back at that time, I wish I would have invested more into the relationships with your sister and with your mom. Cause now I still have the time to invest, have a relationship with your sister, but I don't have that opportunity with your mom anymore. But
Yeah, but we don't know that at the time. And it's new. It's all brand new. So it's like it was not a positive
You
experience.
would leave at 4 a.m. and come home at like 8 p.m.
Yeah, because I was 4, I was leaving.
You would go into the gym.
Yeah, because I would coach a class. So I'd have to drive like 30 minutes north and then coach because we were trying to start a gym.
Yep.
And then
not with me. This is with a buddy.
Yeah, with another friend, which was the first gym I was a partner in. Started that, so I'd coach, and then I'd drive down to my other job in St. Pete.
Yeah. You're like 8 to 4.
But then I also was a baseball coach at high school. So I was coaching there for the first time ever. So then I'm doing all that. And this is in season, like in the spring. So this is like, we're in season.
Yeah.
Like I'm gone. And games are at 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock. So like, and practices. So it's every day and just gone.
So you would go in and coach like the 5 a.m. class, and then you'd go to work. I think it was actually 7 to 3.
Yeah.
And then you'd go to practice.
Yep.
If there wasn't a game, obviously, until like 5 or 5:30. It was like 3 to 5, we'll say 6. And then you'd go back to the gym to do the evening class.
I don't even remember that. That's a haze, but yeah.
And then you would get home at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night.
Insane. Stupid.
And that was like that Monday through Friday.
Stupid.
And then Saturday morning, you'd go back to the gym.
I can't believe we made it through the first year and a half.
Yeah, because it didn't change.
engagement.
Like we
I know.
got married and it was still like that for the first year because
I know.
I stayed over there in Tampa. It's pretty wild.
It was nuts. It's crazy. Like people talk about, oh, you go through rough patches. Like our first year was tough. And not for like, we were like crazy drama or anything. It's like, we just didn't spend time together, which is like the time that your first year is supposed to be that. Like we didn't have our actual like honeymoon phase until we moved here.
Yeah.
And then we were waiting for the gym to start here in St. Augustine. And like, we were both working in the restaurant, trying to make ends meet. That was fun. That was super fun.
I know you hated it though.
I hated the restaurant, but I enjoyed the time. Like
Yeah.
the time was great because we had a lot of freedom and
We had no time together and also like zero money to do anything.
zero money. So it's the worst combination.
Yeah.
So like we couldn't do anything. Like your story of like grabbing the coins to get your nails done because you were like, I hope he doesn't notice. Because like we had no money. Like our date nights, for comparison of like just understanding context, our date nights then once a week, we would go.
No, it was like once a month.
It was once a month. Then.
If that, maybe like every 6 weeks.
Yeah. Like our date night would be going to like a place with 50-cent wings. We would get like, if we were lucky, we get 12, like legit 12, like 50-cent wings. I would get one beer because it was like $2.
Yeah, it was like a $2 beer.
$2 Yingling.
Yeah.
And then you would get
A shock top.
yeah, like a shock top. And then if we were feeling crazy, we would get dessert, like a slice
peanut
of
butter pie.
peanut butter pie.
Which is so funny because you don't even like peanut butter
No,
pie.
I don't. But that was yours. You liked it. So, and I still remember stressing about that. I remember stressing about that being like, I'm going to have to not do something later this week or next week because we spent this money here. That's how poor we were, which is insane.
Yeah.
Thinking about where we are now. But we've come a long way.
We have come a long way.
Really long way.
We stuck it out.
You know what's really cool though is like I can say that our marriage and relationship has gotten better literally every single year.
Yep.
Like there hasn't been like a, hey, it hits a peak and then comes down and then goes back up. It's literally just steadily just gotten better every single year.
Yeah.
Even with kids, like throwing kids in the mix, which is nuts when you have no money, you're living in a studio. We've been married at this point 3 years, right? When she was born. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 years because we got married in 2012. No, we got married in
You pretty good like 2
years. It was 2 years.
Yeah.
Because we got married in 2013. Mm-hmm. So 2 years. In
She's born in 2015.
Yeah, so 2 years. Married 2 years. We only had one little section of time where we were like honeymoon phase.
Basically like 6 months, really.
Yeah, 6 months. Then she's born.
Hence
Terrible.
our first kid coming.
Yeah. First kid's coming. Terrible birth process for you.
Yeah.
Like horrendous. Almost loser. And then we're living in a studio with, again, no money. And she's waking up every 3 hours, screaming her head off.
Yeah.
Like all the time.
And I'm bartending still.
We're trying to figure out
like-
the gym.
Yeah. You were trying to figure out the gym at the time.
Yes. And that's 2015. It wasn't until 2017 is when I got the job. My first job, I got tired of it. I wasn't making any money. I was like, I bit down on I just pushed aside my ego. I was like, I'm not going to try to keep doing this gym thing. I'll do it on the side, but I need to make money. Like at the end of the day, I was like, I need to make money. If the gym fails, it fails. I wanted it to be great, but at the end of the day, I've been doing it for 3 years and it wasn't working. And what I was doing wasn't working. It wasn't the right business model. It wasn't the right stuff. And so I was like, no, I'm going to get the job because it was like, I need to take care of the family.
Yeah.
I can't keep doing this. So I went and got a job. Great business, like great company.
Yeah.
We were great people. Shout out to Business Builders. They were a phenomenal company to work with.
Yep.
Love Jay Owen, Chris Webster, the whole team there. Incredible. Really enjoyed it, but then found Gym Launch literally a month later.
Yeah.
And then that just changed the trajectory of our life completely.
Yeah.
And that was 2017. And now we're here in 2023 and went from being clients at Gym Launch to now we run the entire portfolio for 3 different companies, all formerly owned and founded by Alex and Layla. Well, 2 of them. The other one we actually are the founders of.
Yeah. Building it now.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's like so crazy too, is that, you know, in other podcasts, I've talked about how, you know, it's the man's job to lead the household. And it's the woman's job to support them. And again, like there's caveats to that.
That's a controversial topic right there.
It is controversial, but that's the way it's supposed to be designed, right? It's supposed to be like man's the head of the household. And like, again, you're still one unit. So like the female's putting full trust in the husband that they're going to make the right decisions for the family and for what's best for the family. And I think that's something that I've always, you know, and not having the best track record relationships literally until you, and then we get married. But like, I always knew what a marriage commitment was, even though I didn't really grow up in the church or like have that background. Like I knew like this commitment is one, and like my job is to continue to support you, even if I might not agree with some stuff sometimes, but like I still need to support you and call you out and like talk through when things aren't where I think they should be going. But I think, so with Gym Launch, you had actually decided to go online first. And so we got a personal loan for $10,000, which for the time, like this is the same year that our tax return was like $29,000 combined tax return. $29,000. And like, you know, there were some tips in there from bartending and stuff. So it's like, it was probably a little more, but like, let's say max.
We didn't make more than $36,000 that year.
We did not, combined as a household with a 1-year-old.
Yep.
So like we had no money. And so taking out a personal loan of $10,000 when we still were trying to pay off my dad, who took out a loan for us to start the gym, was like, okay, this is a really big bet and you're going to go all in on it. And I was like, okay. So you start doing it and we realize it's actually just funding so you started this so it could fund money for us personally because the gym wasn't paying us anything. And so, but ended up just keeping the gym afloat.
Because I made more money from that
than you were for the gym.
Yeah, than the gym.
Which is crazy. I just
poured it back into the gym to keep the gym from shutting down.
Yep. So we realized that we still have no money. And then, you know, so that's when you decide to get the job. And then Gym Launch comes around and then you sell me on, this is going to be I think at the time it was $12,000. It was going to be $12,000 to start this program. And you had just taken out $10,000 on this loan that we haven't even tapped into yet. And so I was like, all I see is like debt building up and we have no money. And I don't really know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, you just sat down and said, listen, the gym's going to shut down regardless. So it's either we can go all in and try, and here's all the proof. Here's the conversations that I've had. Like, here's all the gyms that Gym Launch has helped so far. And at that time, I think it was only like 10 people. It was
30. I think it was like 33 gyms at the time because they had done the fly out.
Oh, they did the fly out. That's right.
So they had like 33 testimonials and that was it.
Yeah. Which is just like wild. You're like, okay, look at these results. Like
now
we
have
can
like
do this.
1,500 testimonials.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, you know, like at that time though, I trusted that we're just going to go all in and like, what's the worst case scenario? Like what's going to happen? Either we shut the gym down, we can't pay off this loan right now. We'll find another job. We'll figure it out. I think at the end of the day, you and I have always been aligned on we'll just like figure it out together, no matter what it is. Even if it's together. Like really shitty or really great, we're just going to figure it out together.
That's a key characteristic. And this is really important, I think, for married couples, period. Finding that one core thing for us, it's like, we'll figure it out, meaning we will do what it takes no matter what to figure it out and to find success in some form or fashion. Because we know what it's like to be dirt poor. And I mean dirt poor. Like we had a roof over our heads, but that's it. Like nothing. I remember scraping together just to make sure we had enough food, right? And just thinking about that. And now it's like, but we were like, we're not going to be this way forever. And we will figure out a way and we will do what it takes to be successful. And the cool part, I think the difference in this, and this is what skyrocketed our relationship to a whole nother level, in my opinion, and continues to grow, is because when we did this, the goal was first, let's see if this thing works with Gym Launch. And then the next thing was like, if it works, let's make enough money to get you out of bartending and into the gym. Because at that time, we found out you were pregnant with our son. And our second kid. And that was like, okay. And, and so I remember doing Gym Launch and like, we did it in like first 10 days that we started, we made $38,000 in 10 days. And that was more than the 9 months prior in gym launch.
In 10 days.
Prior to gym launch.
Yeah.
In 10 days, we made as much as we had in the last like 9.5 months from the gym.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. That's how bad the gym was. And it was nuts. And then totally changed the trajectory of our life.
And now here we are.
We'll
we only have 2 weeks left.
Yeah, we only have 2 weeks left according to the comments. You're going to figure out that I'm a simp.
Yes.
And then you will leave me. So even though we've been together for 12 years now, 10 being married, like it's been nice knowing you. Sorry you found out I'm a simp because of TikTok comments from randos. But all the mids on TikTok and Instagram.
I don't even know what that means.
They're just mids as humans. So,
Got it.
yeah, just is what it is. Some people, not everyone can be a high performer or an A player. Mm-hmm. Some have to be mids. And then you're going to have your bottom feeders, and they're closer to the bottom feeders than anything else. But it is what it is.
I think nowadays there's such a huge push to like wait to like dive into a relationship with somebody, to like work on yourself, or
like what I did.
Yeah, but you like kept me on the side. I was like your side piece while you were working things out.
I didn't have a side piece. You were my only piece. There was no side. It was just
I was just like on the side.
We just weren't sleeping together.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
Which develops a great relationship. But a lot of times it's like I see nowadays like people are getting into relationships like as they get older, or trying to get in relationships as they get older, because they're, early on they're having fun still, like figuring out life, having fun. And then they're trying to like work through, whatever childhood trauma, that they've come up through. And so they're working on themselves, and they miss the boat in the window to like meet someone in a time that's then going to allow them to grow with that person.
Yeah.
I think there's like so much to be said for like, it just forges such a strong relationship and bond where it's like, that's great if you're both out working on yourselves and then you can come together, but it's so rare that people can do that. And I think it's like, if you can find that person early on and work through things together, it's just going to create a stronger relationship.
Yeah. Going through the pain together is what made our relationship so good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if our relationship, like if we had just started off with money, I don't think our relationship would be what it is today.
No, probably not.
Not even close. Because like going through that discomfort, that pain, that financial poverty, basically. Yeah. And just stressing about money, financials, and having to work through it, but still finding the time and the joy with each other. Like, our relationship is better, but like my love for you, even though I can say that it's grown, it's like, I still remember like the love felt the same back then. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it still felt the same then. It's deeper because we've gone through more today. And I think that I'm not saying everyone should go through pain, but I can tell you this, like you learn a lot from going through pain together and like growing together. Because a lot of people would have just split apart because you hit that roadblock and you're like, oh, this is hard. I can go find someone else really easily because I can swipe on Tinder, or I can get a DM from someone or a text from someone, like how we got started. And it's really easy to do that. It's like really easy
to do that. Yeah.
So, which is also why we both have boundaries today. We set boundaries for each other. So we should talk about, at some point, we'll do another podcast on like the growth from like gym launch forward. There's a lot of lessons there which is specifically kind of this podcast's goal is to help people, married entrepreneurs specifically. Yeah. And so we'll talk about that growth, because that's the combination of both being entrepreneurs and being married. Yeah. There's a lot of lessons in that whole phase of 5 years.
I'm just glad we made it there.
I know. We almost didn't make it.
Almost didn't make it.
There was a point. I was walking on a plane to Texas and you were like, I might not be back. I might not be here when you get back.
I said, I'm going to St. Augustine and I don't know if I'm coming back.
Yep. I remember. So.
Yeah. Honestly, if it wasn't required for me to finish my internship.
You would have gone back.
To graduate, I probably would not have come back.
Yeah. But you know what's funny is I would have just followed you. I would have.
I know, that's why you just do whatever you want, because you just know that
do what it takes.
I'll always forgive you.
I'll do what it takes. Do whatever it takes.
Yeah. All right. So. Okay.
I love it.
I love you.
I love you too.